What ancient city laid the groundwork for much of Western civilization, and why do we still feel its pull today? Today, we're unraveling the mystique of ancient Rome.
Hey, I'm Leah, feeling so curious today.
And I'm Garrett, excited to explore some Roman history with you. Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
Ancient Rome.
Let me paint the picture for you. I remember standing inside the Colosseum in Rome, this giant oval of stone that the emperors Vespasian and Titus built after the First Jewish-Roman War, and it's officially the Flavian Amphitheater. You can still see the tiers where up to tens of thousands watched games. Titus even kicked it off with 100 days of spectacles, including a mock naval battle. It felt like walking into a machine designed to broadcast power and generosity at the same time.
All right, here's where we begin. The timeline is big but clear once you stack it. Traditional founding in 753 BC, then a kingdom with early kings. In 509 BC, the Republic starts with elected offices, and in 27 BC, the empire begins under Octavian, who becomes Augustus. The western half falls in AD 46, but the Eastern Roman Empire, which we often call Byzantine later on, carries the torch until 1453. That's a jaw-dropping span.
And the shape of government changes a lot. First monarchs, then the res publica, literally the public thing, a system run by offices and assemblies rather than a king, and then the principate, where the emperor is styled as first citizen but holds the real levers. The Republic's checks and balances inspired modern constitutions. Think consuls like co-chief executives, a senate advising, and tribunes who could veto to protect common citizens.
And when people say Pax Romana, they mean a long stretch of relative peace and stability that starts under Augustus. It's like when a rough neighborhood finally gets good lighting and regular trash pickup, so commerce gets easier, travel safer, and culture can breathe. Roads, aqueducts, and laws knit it all together.
Totally. Rome shaped language and law too. Latin becomes the base for Romance languages, and even English borrows tons of vocabulary. Roman law influences modern civil codes. Architecturally, things like the arch and concrete let them scale up, and their military is standardized. Think training manuals, regular pay, and veteran colonies that help anchor new regions.
Let's unpack the early days. The legends say twin brothers Romulus and Remus, raised by a she-wolf, founded the city, and the poet Virgil ties Rome back to Aeneas of Troy. But archaeology shows more of a slow merge of Latin hilltop villages around the Tiber. By the 700s and 600s BC, you see communal works like draining the valley that becomes the Forum, and the Regia, basically the royal house that later houses Rome's chief priest.
Right, and early Rome had kings. Traditional lists name 7, each with a theme. Numa Pompilius is credited with religious organization, Servius Tullius with social and political reforms, and Tarquin the Proud with tyranny that triggers the shift to a republic. Even after kings go away, you get a ceremonial figure, the Rex Sacrorum, just to handle sacred rites without political power.
So why keep a ceremonial king if they hated kingship? Is that contradiction or clever design?
Clever design. They kept the religious continuity while sending a loud message that political power wouldn't sit with one monarch again. Ritual stayed. Tyranny was out. That's very Roman, compromise through institutions.
Then 509 BC, the Republic. Two consuls share executive authority, meaning they can check each other. There are praetors for courts, quaestors for finance, aediles for city management, and crucially, tribunes of the plebs who can veto to protect ordinary citizens. Assemblies like the Comitia Centuriata and Comitia Tributa vote, though wealth matters a lot in how votes are weighed.
By the late 500s BC, Rome already dominates a region of roughly 780 square kilometers and leads neighboring Latin cities, sharing religious festivals and legal privileges called Latin rites. That shared Latin identity makes later integration smoother.
Monumental building ramps up in the 500s BC, like the Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill. You can feel Etruscan influence there. The Etruscans are the neighboring culture to the north with serious architectural chops. This is a city stepping onto a bigger stage.
They also get hard lessons. In 390 BC, Gauls led by a chief named Brennus sack Rome after the Battle of the Alea. It's traumatic, but prompts defensive reforms. The memory of that shock fuels a drive to never be that vulnerable again.
Next up, the rise and the struggle. The Punic Wars define Rome's leap beyond Italy. Carthage is a North African maritime powerhouse. In the First Punic War, 264 to 241 BC, Rome basically builds a navy from scratch and uses a boarding device called the corvus to turn sea battles into, land battles on ships. They win Sicily as their first province.
Then comes Hannibal in the Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BC. Hannibal is Carthage's star general who famously crosses the Alps with war elephants. He wins stunning victories in Italy like Cannae, but the Roman response is strategic endurance. Publius Cornelius Scipio, later called Scipio Africanus, takes the fight to Africa and defeats Hannibal at Zama. Carthage is done as a military rival.
And Rome doesn't stop. In the 100s BC, they defeat the Macedonian and Seleucid kingdoms in the east. Wealth and Greek culture pour into Rome, which is exciting, but it also scrambles social balance back home.
Here's where internal conflict heats up. The Gracchi brothers, Tiberius and Gaius, are tribunes who push agrarian reforms to help small farmers displaced by giant estates called latifundia. Latifundia are huge plantations worked by slaves, and they edge out citizen farmers who've been away on long campaigns. Both brothers are killed. Politics turns bloody.
And the political divide hardens into populares and optimates. Not parties exactly, but approaches. Populares lean on the people's assemblies and tribunes for reform, while optimates lean on the Senate and courts to preserve elite control. Add in the Lex Claudia in 218 BC, which bans senators from commerce. That pushes business into the equestrian class, wealthy non-senators, and deepens class tensions.
Gaius Marius, a general, opens military recruitment to the landless poor in 107 BC. That professionalizes the army but ties soldier loyalty to the general who promises land and pay, not to the state. It's a big gear shift. Now commanders can leverage personal armies in politics.
Why does that matter so much? Is it just about money for soldiers or something deeper?
Deeper. If your livelihood and post-service land depend on a specific commander, you follow him even against other Romans. It dissolves the old norm that armies serve the Republic first. That enables civil wars down the road.
And it spirals. In 88 BC, Lucius Cornelius Sulla marches on Rome to secure his command, unprecedented. He later rules as dictator and uses prescriptions, official kill and confiscate lists, to terrorize opponents. Urban gangs like those connected to Publius Clodius Pulcher or Titus Annius Milo battle in the streets. The guardrails snap.
Then come extra-constitutional alliances. The first triumvirate is Julius Caesar, Pompey the Great, and Marcus Crassus. It's a power-sharing agreement outside the rules. After Crassus dies in 53 BC and Caesar's daughter Julia, who linked Caesar and Pompey, dies in 54 BC, it unravels. Caesar crosses the Rubicon in 49 BC, civil war follows, and he emerges dictator. He's assassinated in 44 BC by senators like Brutus and Cassius, who hope to save the Republic but trigger more war.
Resolution of a sort arrives with Octavian, Caesar's heir, who becomes Augustus in 27 BC. He sets up the Principate, keeps Republican window dressing, but centralizes power. He creates a 28-legion standing army and the Praetorian Guard, an elite imperial guard. It's the start of the Pax Romana, a long calm that lets infrastructure, trade, and law mature.
Culture flourishes. Poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid, and the historian Livy define a golden age of Latin literature under Augustus's patronage. Architecturally, the empire flexes. Later, the Flavians build the Colosseum on land reclaimed from Nero's private complex, signaling a return of space to the people.
The Nerva Antonine era is remembered for stable governance. Later writers call them the 5 good emperors. Under Trajan, the empire reaches maximum size around AD 117, and you get those big projects like Trajan's Forum and Column. Hadrian consolidates and builds frontiers, like Hadrian's Wall in Britain, and later suppresses the Bar Kokhba revolt in Judea, renaming it Syria Palestina.
But there are shocks. The Antonine Plague in the late 100s AD likely kills millions and thins the ranks. Marcus Aurelius is a philosopher-emperor who handles frontier wars, but his heir Commodus marks a shift toward instability at least in the eyes of ancient critics.
AD 193 gets wild. The Praetorian Guard literally auctions the throne to Didius Julianus. Septimius Severus, a general, marches on Rome, wins, and sets the Severan dynasty. In AD 212, Caracalla issues the Edict of Caracalla, granting Roman citizenship to all free men across the empire, excluding a few categories. That reshapes identity and law and expands the tax base.
Then comes the crisis of the 3rd century. Rapid-fire emperors, invasions, breakaway states like the Gallic and Palmyrene empires, inflation and plague. Aurelian, nicknamed Restorer of the World, hauls it back together and builds the Aurelian walls around Rome. But deep problems remain.
Diocletian becomes emperor in 284 and goes full reform mode. He creates the Tetrarchy, 4 emperors to share the load, adds court ceremony to elevate the imperial aura, and restructures taxation and administration. There's also the great persecution of Christians under him and Galerius. Within a generation, policy flips when Constantine legalizes Christianity with the Edict of Milan in 313 and founds Constantinople in the 320s, shifting gravity eastward.
By the late 300s, Theodosius I strengthens Christian norms, and on his death in 395, divides rule between his sons, Arcadius in the east and Honorius in the west. The Western Empire faces mounting pressure. The sack of Rome in 410 by Visigoths shatters the old aura. In 476, Odoacer deposes Romulus Augustus. That's the conventional end of the Western Empire. The East endures, with reconquests under Justinian, revival under Basil II around AD 1000, but gets hit hard by the Fourth Crusade in 1204, and finally falls in 1453 to Mehmed II.
Let's dig deeper into the big, unanswered one. Why did the Western Empire fall? I lean toward military structure and leadership failures. After strong commanders like Stilicho are gone in the early 400s, the West can't rebuild a reliable, centrally controlled field army. They rely more on federate troops, allied groups inside the borders, and that buys time but erodes autonomy. Without a dependable army, every other problem starts flashing red.
I'm with you on the army, but I think the deeper driver is fiscal. The West's tax base shrinks compared with the East. Fewer rich cities, more exposed frontiers, and repeated civil wars thin revenue. If the treasury is an engine, you were missing cylinders. No pay, no troops, no borders, no revenue. It's a nasty loop.
So is it fair to say military collapse is the symptom and finances the underlying cause?
Partly. Add administrative fragmentation and leadership churn. If every few years a new usurper pops up, provincial governors hedge their bets, and taxes don't reach the center. Meanwhile, external groups press the Rhine and Danube, and integrating them as allies proves uneven. The East, with stronger cities and trade routes, can absorb shocks. The West can't as easily.
I also keep thinking about disease moments. The Antonine Plague earlier and other outbreaks reduce population, which shrinks the pool of recruits and taxpayers. It's like trying to keep a huge building running when half the maintenance crew is out sick for months.
And once the West loses North Africa to the Vandals in the 400s, it loses a breadbasket and crucial tax revenue. That might be the point of no return. So for me, the stack is fiscal decline first, military dependence and fragmentation second, and then leadership volatility pounding nails in the coffin.
I'll still plant my flag on command and control collapse in the army as the immediate cause, with those other forces pulling it down. But yeah, it's a web, not a single thread. Real talk, monocausal answers feel tidy but probably miss the point.
Pop culture time. Gladiator gave people a visceral feel for arena politics and imperial spectacle, even if it takes liberties. HBO's Rome walks through the late Republic's chaos with memorable characters. I'd love a series on Aurelian, the restorer of the world, doing the rapid reconquest of Palmyra under Queen Zenobia and the Gallic Empire. Fast pacing, high stakes, and walls going up around Rome.
Zenobia herself would be amazing. She's the queen who ran the Palmyrene Empire in the 260s. Smart, bold, and tragic. Or a limited series on the Gracchi brothers as a political thriller. Reformers, family loyalty, and the moment politics turns violent. That's a story worth telling. Counterfactual moment. What if Hannibal had won decisively at Zama in 22 BC and forced Rome to submit? Carthage, a maritime trading state, might have imposed terms that clipped Rome's wings in Italy and overseas. The arc of the Western Mediterranean changes overnight.
If Hannibal crushes Scipio Africanus at Zama and dictates peace, Rome might be boxed into central Italy. Carthage could dominate Spain's resources in the western seas. Without Roman ascendancy, maybe Greek kingdoms in the east stay independent longer, and the blended Greco-Roman world becomes a Greco-Punic world with Phoenician flavor in law and trade.
Language rippled too. Latin doesn't spread as far. Romance languages might never form in the same way across Spain and Gaul. Punic or Punic-influenced dialect could ride trade routes along the coasts. And Roman-style citizenship policies, which later knit the empire, never scale up.
Also, political models. The Roman Republic's checks and balances wouldn't become the long-lived reference point they did. Carthage ran on an oligarchic system with councils and magistrates, but it didn't export institutions the way Rome later exported Latin law and municipal frameworks. The later inspiration for modern republics could be much weaker.
And if Carthage keeps Rome down, does a figure like Augustus ever emerge to centralize power and start the Pax Romana? Maybe not. The Mediterranean might stay a patchwork of rival powers. That could mean more constant local wars, but also more cultural diversity in the long run, a different kind of mosaic.
Wild how one battle can pivot centuries. If Zama flips, the dominoes of law, language, infrastructure, and even religious history could fall another way. That's pretty cool, right? At least as a thought experiment.
I'm still thinking about that Colosseum image you shared. It's a perfect symbol for how spectacle and statecraft can merge. Kind of gives you something to sit with, huh?
Stay curious and keep exploring history. On to the next rabbit hole soon.